Happy Tuesday. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is a review for one of the newer additions to AOScan's amazing suite of programs. Company is Solex Global. It's called AO MindSync, and that's what you see on the screen right here. But today I'm actually going to show you how to maximize the results of what is possible with this specific program by actually pairing it with another sequence of programs in AOScan, as well as also just doing the inner work, some inner techniques. In the description box below, you'll see also a couple other practitioners, coaches that have quite a reputation in that niche or industry, and I highly recommend you watch just both of their presentations. It will completely change your life. Just watch those two, and you'll definitely walk away, even if you walk away with like 2% value, that 2% will change your life. And so also what you'll learn in those video presentations below, you can take exactly those insights and tools and apply it to make AOScan's programs here work a lot better. So if you're watching this video and you have AOScan, this is an amazing, amazing tool. If you don't know what that is, you can watch some of my other videos. I am actually about to, at the end of this week, make an organized playlist on my YouTube channel. In the interim, you can just do a little search on my channel and find AOScan videos. If you have questions, also you have my direct email. Don't hesitate, guys, to reach out on that. I do also coach in all kinds of interesting protocols about different products you can pair together, make AOScan work better, as well as a lot of other Solex's really, really unique therapeutic devices and all kinds of different things that they manufacture, and really how to put those together. Everybody's unique, so I do a lot of that coaching with my personal Solex group. If you want to join my team and get all those insights, it's really easy to do so. It's just I think it's like a $50 annual fee. It's pretty cheap. And you just click the link below and you can join as a member. Anyways, let's get into it. So what you see on the screen, let me just backspace here. So, and I'm going to really try to work on my ums on this video, by the way, because believe it or not, I don't edit videos. I am too lazy to do that. Sounds like an affirmation. I am not lazy. I am very productive. But in all seriousness, this is the main interface that you see on your mobile device, so you can get this program on your phone. You can also get it on a tablet as well. And if you're creative, you can also just broadcast it onto a larger screen and things like that, which is kind of nice if you're showing other people visually what's going on. This is a program, by the way, that can be used remotely also. And I do coach people on kind of best practices around to get the best accuracy and effect from the remote virtual sessions that you can do with people. And I will actually show you some of that today as well. Okay, so this is the main screen. If you scroll down, this is kind of the newer edition this year, the AO MindSync. So I did talk about this, by the way, in a separate video about how it is brainwave entrainment, which you should Google. I'll put that in the description if you don't know what that is. Brainwave entrainment simply means you're shifting your brainwave state. So if you're in a bit of a high beta focus, at work or whatever, concentrating, you can shift it to an alpha state quite quickly by actually listening to different sound tones in each ear. In this case, this technology allows you to record your voice for 60 seconds, and you can say a variety of affirmations. They give you different prompts here if you don't have any idea what you're going to say. But in this video, I'm actually going to coach you on how to maximize the effectiveness of affirmations, okay? So instead of just listening to random tone frequencies in a subliminal way, it's under voice, and it's actually softer. You put it softer than the music track that overlays it. And then you can actually shift your brainwave state, but based on listening to your own voice that's altered in frequency for each hemisphere of the brain. So it's pretty incredible. So it can put you into a highly suggestible, focused way into the alpha theta, where actually your body, your brain, goes through a lot of different healing processes, neurogenesis processes, when you're at these coherent brainwave states. So it's really, really important. And if you're wondering, like, I don't know about all this brainwave and entrainment stuff, well, listen, there's minimum 30 years of studies and research on brainwave entrainment, okay? So it's not like this company just was like, we invented brainwave entrainment. No, it's been around a long, 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 long time. It just so happens that this particular software program is unique And if anybody finds anything similar to this particular specific thing, definitely put it in the comment box right below. I would love to know. But they are giving the ability to actually record your voice and use that to actually create the brain or the binaural or brainwave entrainment process. Pretty cool. So it's very, very powerful if you do it right. In this video, we're going to talk about, again, right now, what I recommend for my team. And these are a little bit of insights. It's not the full training, but these are some insights that our team felt was so important to share with other people because we're getting amazing results that I am making this public. So, but again, there are more extensive protocols to continue the effectiveness of these processes. So what are we doing? Sure, you can use this and, right now in this moment, do a little affirmation, blah, 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 blah. And that's great. Do something instead of nothing and try to do it consistently. That's always good. Consistency for this is really important. But can you get much better results than just like randomly recording an affirmation? Yes. Okay, so the first step is what constitutes a good affirmation? Okay, so you got to start there. And that comes from the area of what's known as neuropsychology studies, neuropsychiatry, okay, and a few other niches of study in the health field. So what those industries or areas of studies, fields of research have done over a long period of time now is they have done a lot of different types of brain scanning, and in combination with other sorts of research that looks at the connection between consciousness, thoughts, thinking, focus, attention, behavior, how all these things interconnect, but again, always tying it back to brain physiology and sometimes physiology in the rest of the nervous system in the body. So in other words, like your autonomic nervous system, if you don't know what that is, just look it up. How's that different than your central nervous system, okay? Your vagus system. And how is that connected to like all the different processes in your body, or your mood, or your emotions, your mind, maybe beliefs? What kind of runs the show, so to say? How come you are hesitating in stopping that habit, right? Or how come it's so challenging to do this, this, and this? Fill in the blank, right? So it's a really cool field because we get really into the nitty gritty of like, oh, well, when this happens, this is what's actually going on in the brain. And so a lot of the stuff has been really taken to the point where we know things like how to structure your affirmations to maximize, or I guess you could say to be in the right sequence of how your mind and brain like to encode information. Take in new beliefs, form new beliefs that lead to new perspectives, and then thus to new actions or new behaviors. All that is already known. So you gotta, I know, and it's like surprising for some people, you gotta take that science and then actually incorporate it into processes or practices that you do every day. And in this case, we're going to actually apply it to incorporating it into making this program work better, okay? So one thing in the link below that is related to how you structure affirmations more effectively is right here. This guy, Dr. Synder, okay? David Synder. So he has been in this field. He kind of does NLP, and he does a lot, and that's neuro-linguistic programming, but he has a lot of broad specializations and practices for a long, long time. Definitely one of the top guys in the field, still constantly educating. If you just watch this one, I mean, he has tons of educational content, but even if you just watch this one video, you're going to come away with like so much value, it's ridiculous. So, because he just consolidates a lot of research and actual practice. Who knows how many people he's coached and helped, you know what I mean? So all of that also comes through. It's not just like, we saw this in a research study, blah, 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 blah. No, it's like real world, real people, what actually works, okay? So definitely make sure you watch this so that you can use the AO scan more effectively, okay? But I'm going to say a few things for the sake of this video, and just dive into how you are going to basically structure your affirmations. So if you click on this button here, sorry, not that one, let's take an example of how they have structured their affirmations here, and why I'm going to critique them and say you can use these as inspiration if you want to for some ideas, but I'm going to actually suggest that you write down anywhere your own better structured affirmations, and you will read those off. as you record versus using AO scans. Solex, if you're watching this on a corporate level, I can always just pass this along to Lauren or whatever. But basically, if you are watching this, there definitely could be some improvements in how these are structured. So if you hit record and you've selected these, they actually prompt you. So let's read off one of these. I remember the things I see. So you might be thinking, okay, well, what's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. And actually, if you read it off and you do brainwave entrainment, it could be pretty effective. But can it be a lot more effective, right? So that's what we're really after. How can we make this fast, efficient, and life-changing, right? So every day I improve my ability to retain information. Okay, what's the issue with that? Okay, I improve my ability to retain information. So what do you think? What do you think is doesn't that, if you just your first impressions of that, it might not be super relevant to you. It might be relevant from the standpoint of maybe you do actually have a challenge with that. Okay, but for many people, it's not personally relevant because part of it is it's not structured in a personally relevant way. What do I mean by that? Why? So if you just ask the question why, I'm absorbing and recalling information with greater ease. Yeah, but why? Like, there's like a bajillion, 10,000 other things that we could make statements about. Why is that relevant to you? Why do you care? Why do you want that? What's it going to achieve for you? And so anytime you have a statement and you think it internally, or you hear somebody say something or whatever that is, part of your brain, part of the way it works, and everybody knows this, I'm just going to speak to the obvious, is that it wants to know why it should change or why it wants to do something. And it's also behind every decision and behavior you make. Like, you only do things because on some level, some part of you, not all of you, but some part of you wants that thing, wants to do that thing. I mean, this is all obvious stuff, right? So if you think about, okay, well, yeah, that is very obvious. That makes sense why that affirmation is not really a strong one. That's actually not how my mind works. Like, I recall information with greater ease. Okay, like, so what? Like, what's that going to give me? So the first thing that we really need to think about is initially there's nothing wrong with that affirmation, but you need to add to it. Okay, so if you say it's I can recall information that I read or hear with greater ease. Okay, that's great. That's part of a good affirmation, but now we have to say why. Why is that relevant to you? Okay, so in the case of, let's just say that where your memory is not as sharp as it could be, so let's just start there. Okay, so yeah, for that type of person, it's obviously a little more relevant, but again, why does that person not like having a sharp memory? Where in their life is it consequential? Do they struggle at work in doing work? Struggle at work doing work? Is it like home life? Do they feel like a scatterbrain? Are friends annoyed with them or loved ones? Or are they freaked out and they're afraid that they're going to get Alzheimer's or something like that? Or whatever it is, right? So whatever that is, okay, if you have a goal, something you want to change, let's think about why. Just answer the question why. Literally, as you write part of an affirmation or you have an idea, write this all down and just list out a few words or ideas like, okay, I want this because, or this is meaningful to me because. So just then list out as many reasons, honestly, as many reasons as you can come up with. The reason why you just want to list out as many reasons as you can come up with is because the reason we're all not like superstars in every way, in every domain of our lives, is because we have limiting beliefs. There's obviously a little bit more to the story than just limiting beliefs, but let's just say part of the reason is that you have some beliefs that say I can, and then some beliefs that say I can't. Okay, these are like different sub-personalities within us, all right? And they usually are formed where? In the past, okay? So because they're formed in the past, they end up in the subconscious, and they end up stored in the body and the emotions, all these things, and then we just forget that, like, we can't access it. I mean, we can access it, but it starts to program or play itself out in the day-to-day in a way where we don't actually see it bubbling up and influencing us, okay? We might see some of the outer consequences, but as far as the why is this happening, okay? So why we want to list out as many motivating, meaningful reasons, or the because behind why you want to shift what you want to shift. You also you're doing that because you want to outweigh or create a greater amount of energy or meaning then potentially some of the counter beliefs about why you can't do that, or you can't have that, or you don't want that. Okay, so that's just some of the initial ways of how you make an affirmation more powerful than potentially some limiting beliefs. If I have 10 really great reasons for wanting something to change or to have something in my life, and I got 2 limiting beliefs about why not, what do you think is going to have a greater influence? You know, it's not always true, depending on like if there was some serious trauma in the past or something that really was on a deep level in the body. But just for the sake of keeping it simple, do you see how that works? If you have a lot of more reasons for doing something, you're going to be more motivated, obviously. Okay, so I'm giving you the first insights into how you structure an affirmation is as you list out, you know, like what you want to change or what you want to see. You always also want to acknowledge sometime in the way you structure the statement, the affirmation is in the now moment. Okay, in other words, I readily remember people, places, and things. And do you see how they structured that? Like readily. Okay, in other words, the tense of the sentence is in the now moment. It's not like, in the future, I'm going to, you know, no. Or in the past, that would be silly, right? I'm a great person in the past. I mean, no. So you always want to structure it as if it's right now, it's a fact, it is happening, it is occurring right now. And of course you want to structure in that tense because your brain, wired to language, which influences all kinds of processes, is obviously wired to be focused in the present. Partly, because and I say partly because we literally have those subpersonalities I mentioned that are also using some of our wiring, some of our processing, mental, emotional, physical, to link to the past. That's the issue. That's the challenge, right? Where you're like, okay, but I'm presently focused, I'm concerned about the focus, but I'm worrying and I'm thinking about the past. And everybody's done this, right? You're ruminating on thoughts that are from the past. Why? You're thinking about the future. Why? It's all in the present. Okay? So people are using energy resources, they're using neural pathways, they're using all kinds of stuff, future, past, and they could be using all of those energies, all those resources in the present. Okay? So affirmations also will be good for if you continue to use these, for taking more of those resources that are being currently used for future, past, and putting them more into changing things right now. Okay, so structure your statements into the now. Okay, number 1, now tense. And then if you're using English as a second language, if you are not as familiar with English, or if you're talking about another language and you want to structure it in another language, your native language, that would be known as the present tense. Okay, in terms of verb conjugation. Okay, so just always structure things in the present tense. So then, as you structure your affirmation, it's what you want to see change, or what you're owning right now, what you want, what you're changing. Then you have to have a because. Why? Why? Because your brain and aspects of yourself are going to be looking for a reason. So if you don't give it a reason, why would it want to change? Why would your brain, which is a big energy user and it's always trying to calculate how to use the least amount of resources, the least amount of energy on a day-to-day basis, okay? That's a longer conversation, which we can have inside the group that I do. But either way, all you need to know is that there's kind of like limited resources to a certain extent, so it's constantly making those calculations. So if you don't have good reasons, again, the because I want this thing or I am this thing, because it's going to completely ignore the statement. Not 100%, you might get some residual effects, but it's going to be rather limited. Versus here's the actual reason, then your mind and other aspects are going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense based on X, Y, and Z. Okay? But do you see how I just structured that right there? Do you see how your own mind works? So it's going to say, okay, here's the reason why I want to change this thing, or I want this thing, or I want to become this. Okay? So it's the because. So I'll give you an example. My memory is becoming sharper and clearer every day because my power to change myself and my focus and determination always lead to success. This means, or this gives me, depends on what you're saying, this then gives me, so again, what's the actual outcome of all of these things? Okay, the meaning, things you're changing, what is it going to give you? Okay, the outcome or the future goal. This means, or this gives me, the ability to perform at my best at work. And I mean, you could even add on to it further, you know what I mean? Which means I will have greater recognition from my boss or my peers, increase the chances of me getting promoted, you know, be able to do X, Y, you get the idea, right? Okay, so in other words, you do want to stack things in kind of a way where it's future oriented, but starts in the present. There's meaning behind why do you want those things? Why do you want them to change? And then if they do change, what is that actually going to bring you? What is that going to give you? What are you going to enjoy about what actually happens? Do you see how that works? And then now you're thinking like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. That's just, yeah, I mean, that's kind of obvious. Like, that's how I think about things. We all think about things that way, right? We're in a present. We're like, I want to do this, or I want that, or this or that. And then we think about, why do we want those things, right? Like, why do you even think about what you think about on a daily basis? Okay, well, obviously because you want those things, because you think that as you experience and you become that, it's going to give you something, like something will change, and that's a desire. You have a desire about it. And you imagine in the future, when you have that, or do that, how your experience will be different, right? Right? So you've heard about like how important it is to set some future goals and things like that, okay, and how you have to be very explicit and detailed with those goals. I would encourage you to watch some videos out there too on YouTube about like how to make more accurate goals, how to make more like how to set short-term and long-term goals. The reason you're going to watch something like that is because some of those teachings you'll find out there also are going to help you actually with the affirmation statements. When you get to the part about like, all right, this means, you know, or this gives me, or whatever that's where you kind of are inserting, so to say, like those goals you know, that, and again, the process to get to those goals, or the method of how you will get there and achieve those goals is what? It's the affirmations. It's AO MindSync. It's this program, right? And maybe it's even some of your inner values, because I value X, Y, and Z, or I am focused and determined, you know what I mean? Or I am always successful, therefore this happens. Do you understand kind of how that works? So actually, the more time you spend just really crafting, and you don't need like a list of 15 affirmations. That's not really going to be a wise thing to do either for using AO MindSync, and you only have 60 seconds anyways. Is you just kind of want to craft like 2, 3, like really very detailed affirmations that follow this formulation. So this is like a true program from start to finish, correct? The start, initiation, the process, and the actual outcome. You see how that works? And now that's going to be instantly more effective if then you apply that to your affirmations. Here in the bottom box description, there's one more presentation I highly recommend you watch. Even if you get 2% out of this video again, it will be life-changing. If you don't know who Dr. Demartini is, he's also probably one of the better known, just like self-improvement, executive, all-around performance wellness coaches, travels the world. So in this, the Demartini method, or is also known as the quantum collapse process. So to look up quantum collapse process, it is given away for free in some videos like this, and also in a couple of his books. If you really want to be like, I want to change my life in these specific areas in the next 30 days, it's absolutely possible. However, you have to really formulaically follow a specific proven method based on how the mind and the emotions and the body too, but it's really kind of starting in that sequence, top down. You always want to work from the bottom up and the top down, but for this case, we're working top down, mind, emotion, then down. But basically, it's simply a process of, if you want a certain quality, or you want a certain thing or a goal or whatever, he just leads you through the process of saying like, it's as simple as like, you know, I am, you know, I want this thing, and here's all the positives of that thing, okay? And I want this thing to change, or whatever it is. And then you also are listing all the negatives, like what are the drawbacks of having that thing or becoming that. It's fascinating. So as you actually basically structure all that in a certain way, in a certain sequence he leads you through, it allows you to create a whole unique transformative method where you actually can break through and then create a new story or a new meaning and a new program. So definitely watch that, because you also will take some tools from that if you go through that process, and then you can actually bring it back to here into your affirmation process. So it's like a process you lead yourself through, and then you can kind of reprogram with what comes out of that and input it back in here. Okay, that makes sense? So definitely watch those as well. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to use the Innervoice, a different program in AOScan, to actually create a better experience or effect with AO MindSync. So while consistency is important, I encourage you to just use this whenever you can consistently. And there is some wisdom, by the way, in using it at the same time every single day, but that's a longer explanation as to why. But it's based on how circadian biology works and how your brainwave states change throughout the day. But anyways, so what you're actually going to do is ideally, this is an ideal situation, if you have the time, before you work with the MindSync, you're going to want to actually go over here and work with the Innervoice first. All right, and there are, separate videos explaining what Innervoice is and things like that. But let's see if okay, it's not open right now. Hold on a second. I think it is. So normally you record down here a sample of your voice, and that'll actually basically measure thousands and thousands of frequencies in your voice and basically tell you, I'll show you right now in the report. It'll basically show you, and again, if you're familiar with Innervoice, you can just wait a second as I just give a brief summation. It's going to basically tell you like what's a little out of range, so to say, or a little like over amped, and some that are a little bit low in what should be a normal, healthy, harmonic range. And this type of analysis with the voice correlated to different metabolic and physiological functions has actually been studied also a long time as well. So this program will then take what are kind of like the missing octaves and also even the amplitudes that are a little bit diminished or over amplified, and basically correlates it to different mental emotional states. So why I'm actually showing you this is that if you're going to go over to the MindSync, AO MindSync, and try to do an affirmation when you're not in the right or optimum neurophysiologic, psychological sort of state, so that if you're not in the optimal state to reprogram, okay, to shift, then when you record your voice in the affirmations, you're going to have your brain literally and your nervous system will actively filter out or block what it is listening to a certain extent. Let me explain that a little bit further. In your life, have you ever had a moment in time, everybody's had this, but you had a moment in time where something happened, or you're just upset or frustrated or whatever, okay? And then you noticed that somebody was talking to you, or a friend, somebody cares about you, or just anything that happened right after that, where you were just a little more closed down to receiving whatever that was. You just basically were not feeling good, and so you weren't as receptive, you weren't as open, okay, to whatever that next thing, the next moment was, all right? So everybody's obviously had, that's just a super common, normal human thing, okay? But it shows you that in that situation, your mind, your emotions, but very much your autonomic nervous system, okay? So that's part of your nervous system that controls a lot of processes in the body and emotions that are more subconscious. Like if you talk about the physiological level, like are you aware of like, making your heart beat, or your lungs, or your inhalation, your breath, all these different processes. These are more subconscious, okay? So that there's a part of your nervous system that's governing all that stuff that also has correlations with your emotions, okay? And also beliefs and things in your mind that you don't even remember, okay? That happened a long, long time ago. So that part of your nervous system, if you're in at a state that's not really optimum, okay, to rewire things or to change things, and then you try to make a statement like, I'm a positive person, right? And you're feeling like, here's a perfect example, right? And you're feeling like a little bit of anger, okay? And you're not like super willing to change. You're not feeling like super accepting, right? Okay. So let's say you're in this, okay? You're in one of these states, right here, okay? So, and then if I'm going to be in like one of these states, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to change this right now and make an affirmation. I'm going to do it right now. You know what I mean? And you're still kind of have this running in your nervous system, and I make that affirmation, you record your voice. What do you think is going to happen? Okay? So when you get that self-feedback loop from your recording, literally, and this is just, as I said, neuropsychology, psychiatry science about what the brain does and the nervous system does. It's literally, it turns off. It's going to be like, no, not listening to that. So that negative self-talk is literally being externalized because you're recording it, okay? So it's not productive. So you really ideally, before you record an affirmation, is you want to shift something like this, and then you want to make some affirmations that are the antidote, okay, or the solution for helping to shift this stuff. Does that make sense? So in other words, when you're a little bit more in this vibe, right, or you're a little bit more in this state, this is when you would want to record those 60 seconds with the AO Mind Sync, okay? Because the tone of your voice is going to be better. Now, obviously, what I'm also saying here is use the actual Innervoice programs, the recordings, okay? When they actually give you the supportive note, you listen to the music, right? You wear the chromotherapy glasses, you know, you go through the whole process of helping to shift your mind, emotions, nervous system. Go through that, shift it, even maybe go through it a couple times until you feel like, you know what, I feel so much better about, I don't know, let's just say this situation here, okay? I'm feeling so much better after the inner voice. I really feel like it shifted things. Okay, when you get that kind of sense, then go do the affirmation, your affirmations, then do the recording, okay? Now, as you go over here into your recording, definitely, again, you know, be patient with this. Listen to the inner voice a bunch of times. If it takes a few days, if it takes a few weeks, if it takes a month, a couple months, you want to capture that affirmation that you've structured when you're in the most optimum, super high, feeling amazing state. Because that's going to be way more powerful. It's going to be reverberating through the tone of your voice, okay? And then as you record that, don't forget to email it to yourself, okay? Because you don't want to lose that. After all that inner work, after you were patient, and you finally got a really good recording, then you want to actually snapshot that. You want to record it, and you want to email it to yourself, okay? So that way, you can always go back to listening to how you were in that super elevated state. How cool is that, right? Because we've all experienced our ups and downs, right? So imagine if you can just kind of keep re-entraining yourself to when you are in your, you know, just however you feel like best, like your best state or your more optimal state, right? Versus feeling somewhere in between. So that's super powerful because you're just going back to like a point where you are more balanced, and you're building from there. You're always building from there, from that new level of stability. So what does that mean? That means that as you build from there and you enter even more balanced states, more optimum states, you're of course, what are you going to do? You're going to find those moments again, and you're going to record, and then you're going to start working with those. You don't have to go then back to previous recordings. Does that make sense? You keep on taking step after step after step, moving forward to higher and more elevated balanced states based on working with new recordings or maybe new affirmations, okay? So always do, you know, initially to capture the best recordings possible. Now you know how to do better affirmations. Then you have to work on your vocal tone and make sure you're in a good vibe, good shift. You're going to work with inner voice first, and then you're always going to do affirmations next. But again, what I'm suggesting, if you can, ideally, you know, do inner voice, be patient, work with it a bit, find the time when you feel like, yes, now is the time for me to do affirmations that will help me with this, for example. Okay, now I need to capture the recording. And that could happen any day. And again, be patient. If it takes a couple months, it's worth it. It's worth it because you're going to actually record, remember, in time, yourself that's at a certain state, okay, a certain state of being. It's like taking a photo, a snapshot of that. And so you want to treasure that recording. Does that make sense? And then now you're going to have an arsenal of tools. So if you ever enter into a pattern like this again, you're going to say, I have the perfect recording. I have the perfect solution that I can go pull up on my computer now, right? Or on my phone, you know, because again, you're obviously emailing it to yourself. So make a special folder in your inbox, in your email, that is just AOScan recordings, okay? Now the other thing, if you've already thought about doing in making affirmations, if you're really like not sure what type of affirmations to do, take a look at your inner voice report, and you would basically look at these, and you'd basically create affirmations based on the solutions. Like, how do you shift disappointments may manifest as self-sabotage and anger? Like, how would I make, like, what kind of affirmations would I make to help with manifesting things other than self-sabotage and anger, right? Like other states other than anger, right? And what would be the opposite of self-sabotage? Do you see what I'm saying? So in other words, you can actually use these. And remember that these reports, since a lot of stuff is sometimes subconscious, sometimes you're reading things and you're like, I don't know, like that doesn't really resonate with me. I mean, I don't really know. Maybe that is in there somewhere. Maybe it's from my dad. Maybe it's from somebody else that I picked up along the way. But always first go with affirmations with things that you might resonate with. Like, you know what? I do self-sabotage a lot. That seems really true for me. So I'm going to make a few affirmations for self-sabotage, you know, because I feel like that pattern is coming up more often. Doesn't that make sense? So don't try to make like 50,000 affirmations for like, let me do it for this, and then I'll do it for this, and then, you know, like getting carried away. Less is more. You're trying to prioritize. You're trying to say, you know what? Yeah, self-sabotage, that's more prevalent for me right now than being sarcastic. I don't know. You get what I mean? So you always want to prioritize. It's a sequence. You're trying to follow, like, okay, this is the most root issue. Okay, then the next thing, the next layer, the next layer, the next layer comes up, the next layer. And you're going to have recordings from AO MindSync along the way to help walk you through those experiences so you don't slip up and you keep going back. You have to follow a structure, if that makes sense. You have to prioritize in this way. Does it make sense? So you're bringing a lot of like conscious work here to actually helping AO Scan to work better, okay? Because otherwise, if you're just like, oh, well, you know, it's Tuesday morning, so I think I'm just going to do Inner Voice. I mean, hey, as I said, do it versus not do it. But if you're just randomly using AO Scan, like, oh, you know, I think I'll just do an Inner Voice just because it's Tuesday. You know, like, okay, well, I mean, sure, you could do that. But that's just kind of like, I don't know, unconsciously using it in a way. Like, you got to be a little bit sharper and more structured about how you're leveraging and using these things together and for what purpose. Because it goes back to the affirmation thing I said before. If you're just like, oh, I got to use Inner Voice because I feel better. I mean, it's like, okay, that's good, but like, is that the only reason you're using it? Like, why are you using it? You want to give yourself deeper motivation on why, and what is it going to lead to? And the reason for that is because literally you're calling on more resources within you to be more receptive to Inner Voice working better, okay? So, because remember what I said before, everybody has a mix of subpersonalities, things that will be like, you know what, I love Inner Voice, and Inner Voice helps me in this, and way. But people will also have subpersonalities that are like, I don't like Inner Voice because, you know, X, Y, and Z. Like if you're a person that is self-sabotaging, even on a subconscious level, that aspect or that subpersonality probably will not like Inner Voice. Do you know why? Because it's a threat. It's deemed as a threat to the part that likes to self-sabotage and control. So if it feels like Inner Voice is helping it lose control, it's going to self-sabotage you, so Inner Voice doesn't work. If you don't understand that's how psychology works, hey, it's understandable. Like, but there's a whole body of decades of research around this, and this is literally how human neuropsychology works. So if you want these things to work better, you need to stop self-sabotaging, essentially, and you need to start to deprogram. So comprehensive can work better, this can work better, this can work better, these can work better, that can work better. But the two programs that will also greatly help these things to work better in your physiology is actually AO MindSync and Inner Voice. So you can start to clear away any of those shift and reprogram any aspects of your identity that are trying to keep you in a less optimal state. Let's just phrase it that way, because that's a broad statement, right, that encompasses a lot of different things. Okay, so you could be like super sick with chronic disease, or you could just be emotionally miserable, you know, in a certain situation in your life. Okay. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this long-winded video. But inside of my group, we also go into things like how you can use Cepheid dots, and how you can use homeopathics, and how you can basically do other things on your physiology level, so your neurophysiology, to also coordinate with what you're working on with Innervoice and MindSync. So if you want to fully land or ground what you're doing in your emotions in your mind, you have to involve your body as well. So there's a lot of like body practices on where you anchor what you're doing in the higher bodies, so to say, emotion and mind. So when you finally then land it into the body, into the right points, then you can have some like extremely rapid breakthrough experiences. This is also where people can experience like, you know, miraculous healings from like certain diseases or sicknesses and things like that. So you kind of want to work on all levels, and if you kind of know what you're doing, then what's unique is that AOScan can actually provide you with different solutions or tools, I should say, that actually allow you to bridge both mind, body, and emotions. So that's a little bit unique in terms of like other tools and wellness tools out there in the marketplace. If you have any questions on this video, you're welcome to leave comments, of course, below. And if you want to get in touch with me and join up on the team, you can see that, again, that link in the description box. So hopefully if you watch this and you got some value out of it, fantastic. Please also do share this with other people. I think these couple tools, in terms of AOScan as a whole, are very easy to understand. They're very easy to use. And these are probably a couple programs that are really good to show other people if you're kind of introducing them to AOScan as a whole without overwhelming them. And they can use it. You can email them different things, the Innervoice, this. They can work with a little bit. They can experience, they can feel good. They can feel better. You know, it could be a prospect, could be a loved one, whoever. And that's a really, I think, a really great entry point. And then, because as you guys know, if you're using this program or this software, you can get into other aspects that are like really a little overwhelming in terms of all you can do and how detailed it is. And sometimes people get turned off to that. So I would highly recommend that maybe these are a couple programs where you might want to kind of get people started with. Anyways, thanks for watching.